Good morning, everybody. It is 7 o'clock. Very welcome to join us on The Breakfast Show here on Sky News. And then there were six. It's all to play for in the race to be Tory leader and the next Prime Minister as MPs prepare to vote again today. The first ballot saw the former Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, emerge with the most support, but no runaway lead. Behind him, Penny Mordaunt. She may not be as well known beyond Westminster, but she seems to have momentum behind her and the support of the Tory grassroots. Later on today, the list of contenders will be whittled down further in the next round of voting. This morning, joined by supporters of the top three candidates. The Work and Pensions Secretary, Therese Coffey, who's backing Liz Truss, Gillian Keegan, she's backing Rishi Sunak, and Caroline Noakes, who's supporting Penny Mordaunt. It's Thursday, the 14th of July. Six contenders remain in the running for Tory leader, with the former Chancellor leading the pack after the first round of voting. But Penny Mordaunt is hot on his heels, and with momentum for her campaign growing, she seems to have the support of the Tory grassroots.
MPs will vote again later today to whittle down the list further in the race to become Britain's next Prime Minister.
Extreme heat warning. I'm here in Hackney in East London, where a new report has warned this is one of the most vulnerable communities to the impact of more intense heat waves.
More than 8 million households will start to receive the first direct payments to help ease the impact of the soaring cost of living this morning. Sri Lanka in crisis, a state of emergency and a curfew after protesters stormed the Prime Minister's office. Families fury relatives of the Texas school shooting victims campaign for an end to gun violence and demand answers over the slow police response.
If the police officers who are armed and trained do not want to face this person that had an assault weapon, who does?
Also coming up on the programme for you this morning, wherever you're watching us around the world, the President and the pandemic, joined by Donald Trump's former COVID task force leader for the inside story of the White House response to the coronavirus pandemic. And heroic hounds will meet one of the outstanding doggies awarded for their life-changing devotion. Good boy. Morning, everybody. Growing momentum behind Penny Mordaunt in the Conservative leadership race. The Trade Minister and former Defence Secretary came second in the first round of voting, with a poll suggesting she's the clear favourite among Tory members. Former Chancellor Rishi Sunak came top of the first ballot and won the backing of Jeremy Hunt after he and Nadhim Zahawi were eliminated from the competition. And Foreign Secretary Liz Truss was left trailing in third place as she hopes to unite the right of the party behind her when she formally launches her campaign this morning. These are the numbers from that first round ballot. Rishi Sunak topping the poll with 88 votes. Penny Mordaunt, she was second with 67 votes. Liz Truss got 50 votes. Kemi Badenoch, 40. Tom Tugendhat, 37, Suella Braverman, 32. Nadhim Zahawi, 25, he's out, as is Jeremy Hunt, who only polled 18. Under the rules, that means 6 candidates now go through to today's second round vote, but because they got less than 30 votes, Nadhim Zahawi and Jeremy Hunt, as I said, both eliminated. With me now, Work and Pensions Secretary Therese Coffey, who is backing Liz Truss in the leadership competition. Talk about that in just a second. Just want to talk, though, about the urgent question yesterday after Prime Minister's questions. Our ambulance service is on high alert. There was an urgent question from Labour. There was no Secretary of State available to answer that. Are we running a zombie government at the moment?
Well, actually, within just tackling the issue of ambulances first, I get that as a constituency MP. I've been working on this actually for a decade and seeing how the different organisations and strategies about how we're trying to improve elements for patients. It's our local NHS that runs the NHS East of England. But across the country, I know that there's been particular pressure with handoffs from ambulances into hospitals. And it's those sorts of elements where we really need the ambulance trust to get a grip working with the hospitals so we can get ambulances back out on the road for patients. But nevertheless, I appreciate there was an urgent question yesterday. It's actually Westminster practice that normally it isn't the Secretary of State that responds to urgent questions, but other ministers. But importantly, it's here today as well because I've stayed in post in order to make sure that we can get out the cost of living payment today, which we are doing, and over 1.6 million households will be receiving £326 in their bank account today to help them with the cost of living.
But if there's a Cobra meeting, I'm guessing that the government thinks that there is a big issue. So you would have thought the Health Secretary could take time out of his busy schedule to talk to the public via TV cameras.
Well, I don't know the arrangement for the Department of Health. I know I'm responsible for the department.
You accept that it's a problem, a big problem?
I don't know because I don't know what happened yesterday.
Well,
what I
all
do
of the
know
ambulance services are on high alert, so...
Well, I understand that, and as I've explained, as a constituency MP, my own ambulance trust has been rated inadequate. I'm pleased to see that locally they finally listened to MP feedback, and in my own...
They're not responsible for the weather.
In my own ambulance trust, I'm very conscious of the need to operate at a slightly lower, and we're doing that by county. But I think it's because of the impact of very hot weather, that the risk to people, particularly elderly, has gone up, and therefore it's appropriate that we do take substantial action to make sure that ambulance trusts are on high alert and prioritise appropriately.
So what are you doing as a government?
Well, as a government, I'm just conscious that I am, as we've said, we're trying to make sure ambulance trusts are on high alert and prioritising, but also the hospitals to be able to unload patients, to take them into their care as quickly as possible.
We're talking at cross purposes. High alert means something different to you to what it means to the ambulance service. When they're on high alert, that means that they're in trouble.
Well, as I've pointed out, one of the challenges that we've been seeing with waiting times for patients to get an ambulance has risen significantly. That's my understanding why ministers have been stepping in to try and get that prioritisation, but also with the hot weather, we know that's a bigger risk, particularly for elderly. So it is about making sure the NHS, whether for the patients, is working at full rate to make sure that they can try and help patients. But as I say, I'm the Secretary of State for Work and Pensions. I know that my officials have been working relentlessly since we had the announcement of the extra support for over 8 million households, and I'm really pleased that those payments are landing today, and I'm anticipating all the payments that we will be making will be done by the end of July.
OK. Why are you supporting Liz Truss? She's got a lot of work to do, hasn't she?
Liz Truss is a credible cabinet minister with extended service in a variety of departments. Most recently, of course, being Foreign Secretary, and I think she's worked exceptionally well in representing our country around the world, but particularly on Ukraine. She's the lady that finally, she was the one that got Nazanin back, did the negotiations, but also her work on trade deals shows that she can do those negotiations around the world. I think that clearly she has going to be saying in a speech later today some more of her plans, but I've always been impressed by her ever since I've got into Parliament, and I think that she is also known for getting a grip, focusing on delivery, and I also believe that is one of the most critical things that we will be doing in the next 2 years, up until the next election. I think Liz is the one. OK,
so what would you say to the supporters of Kemi Badenoch and Suella Braverman, because you are going to need those votes and more in order for it to get over the line? Why should they come to you rather than stay with those candidates? Well,
Kay, I'm very conscious that this leadership contest is very intensive, and there's a lot of personal emotions that people go through. They put their allegiance to one candidate or another, and when their candidate doesn't do as well as perhaps they would like, it can take a little bit of time for that to absorb. The reason why I think supporters of Suella and Kemi should come and join Liz is because a lot of their policies are in the very similar direction, about having a free economy, about making sure that we stand up for the United Kingdom, be proud of our country, and indeed having that more focus on aspects of delivery, but a different approach slightly on how we tackle economic issues.
Including, she says that she's open to leaving the European Convention of Human Rights. Rees-Mogg, who's also supporting her, even he wouldn't go that far. What do you think?
Well, in terms of undoubtedly, in terms of the ECHR, the European Convention on Human Rights, I think it's fair to say most politicians believe there's been mission creep, I would suggest, and it would have been a surprise to the British public to hear one morning that a European court had blocked, in effect, the plane going to Rwanda, recognising our latest immigration policy. But I think at a meeting the other night, all the candidates I'm aware of that were there, whether that I think it was Rishi, as it was reported on one of those blogs called Playbook, they all indicated that they would rather get reform, and that is Liz's position, in order to reform the ECHR,
that's not what she said.
and also to do the Bill of Rights. And others did say that if necessary, they would be up for that as well.
I think that's you ducking my question, so I'm going to come back to it. Do you think that we should leave the European Convention of Human Rights?
I think we need to reform where we are, and that's what we're doing. Well, we're doing that with the Bill of Rights. And
yeah, but
indeed,
should we leave the European Convention?
Well, Theresa May said during
what do you think?
Theresa May said during the EU referendum that she would rather leave the ECHR than leave the European Union. So I think it indicates this is a broad view across a lot of people.
I'm not asking Theresa May, I'm asking you.
Well, I'm not the person running for leadership. I'm here.
But you have a view. Rees-Mogg's not running for leadership, but he has a view. I mean,
Okay.
some would say he's slightly right of Attila the Hun, but he still wouldn't leave the European Court of Convention of Human Rights.
What I am in favour of is about reforming of the European
not sure why you won't
Court
answer
of
the
Human
question.
Rights, and because I am here to represent the government in terms of our cost of living. At the moment, you're asking me questions about the views of a variety of leadership candidates, in my view. But I'm
You're
here.
entitled to have your own view.
Okay, I've said very clearly it's important that we get the reform and avoid the mission creep, and that's what we will be doing through the Bill of Rights. It's a bit like next week, recognising the different legislation that we have. We're prioritising the Northern Ireland Protocol, and the reason why that is because we want to make sure that we have the appropriate powers to make changes if necessary. So governments will act in different ways to make sure that they have the levers they need to deploy as appropriate in the future in terms of negotiations with other.
Well, I'll just share with my viewers, and we'll move on. Only Russia and Belarus are not members of the not members of the European Convention on Human Rights. We'll park that there. They can make up their own minds. Talk to me about suggestions of dirty tricks. Nadine Dorries says there are dirty tricks, and Rishi Sunak, the former Chancellor, is lending votes left, right and centre to keep your candidate out.
My main focus is on getting Liz Truss into the final two of the MPs. That's my
and
job.
she needs the votes, yeah.
And that's what I will continue to do. I'm not going to get into other campaigns.
OK, but so Nadine Dorries misspoke?
I don't know. I'm not saying Nadine misspoke at all. All I'm saying is I'm focused on Liz Truss, and that's what matters to me, getting her in the final two.
OK. What do you think about Rishi Sunak being a socialist?
In terms of, I'm conscious that other people will come to their own conclusions. I've been working with Rishi. Clearly, there are some slightly different views on what we should have done on where various levies and similar. But with collective agreement and government, of course, people will have been voting for that in the past. But nevertheless, this is now a leadership contest, and Liz will be setting out her views in her speech later today.
How surprised are you that Penny Mordaunt's doing as well as she is?
I think we've got a great range of talent in our Conservative Party and in our Conservative government. And I know that Penny is an assiduous person, but I am supporting Liz Truss because I think Liz has the full package in terms of experience, grippiness in terms of delivery, and that's why I'll be supporting her.
It's fascinating that she is apparently more Brexiteering than Nadine Dorries and Jacob Rees-Mogg together. They made that comment, didn't they, when they were outside number 10 Downing Street the other day? And I'm sure she voted Remain.
Well, I think she did vote Remain. However,
I thought so.
The point is that we're Democrats, and in terms of once a decision to be made by the British people, that's respected. And I think you have to judge people by how they have responded since the referendum. Liz certainly has been out there selling the UK around the world for both exports and inward investment. She really has been delivering on making the benefits of Brexit come to life more perhaps than any other cabinet minister that I've seen.
Yeah, but she was on her way to Indonesia to do that as well, wasn't she? But she soon got back on the plane as soon as she heard that Boris Johnson had resigned. How long do you think she's been quietly planning to be Prime Minister?
I know that Liz has been absolutely focused on her job and has been, in terms of supporting the Prime Minister, because it was important to continue the stability government. It was right that Liz went to Bali to the G20. She didn't turn any plane around. She went there to do what she needed to do, including making sure that she signed the agreement so that Sweden and Finland could have the fast-track scheme to join NATO. This mechanism's never been deployed before. That's how important making sure that the interests of the United Kingdom in a global Britain.
Is that part of the same trip? I thought that had already been done before she went to Indonesia.
No, this was an important part of her trip in G20 was to make sure that those agreements were absolutely signed. So this is why Liz will always put country first, rather than politics, and the best interests of our nation. And I'm pleased that she did that. I know there'll be other people thinking, why didn't she just turn the plane around and come back? She didn't. She did what was necessary in order to be the excellent Foreign Secretary she's been, and that shows the kind of leadership that she will, I believe, lead our country into.
Just before I let you go, she's been described as a 21st century Margaret Thatcher. Now, that is very appealing to the grassroots of the Conservative Party, perhaps less so to the wider public, and she will have to face an election within 2 years, or 2 years at the very farthest distance. How appealing will that be to the wider public?
Liz Truss is my friend. Liz Truss is Liz Truss. She doesn't need to be a copycat of anybody else. She is her own person. You know, a lady that went to school in Paisley in Scotland, then on to a comprehensive in Leeds. You know, she's a lady who has really shown that with hard work, real focus, and her experiences in schools is why she's so passionate about improving education standards and wants to make sure that the four corners of the United Kingdom stay as the United Kingdom, but also that we all lift in terms of prosperity. So I'm absolutely committed, and I'm absolutely convinced that she will continue to be able to deliver the mission of levelling up while also making sure that we get a grip of all the issues that we're facing right now and lead us into victory in the next general election.
So it's not helpful to compare her to Margaret Thatcher, then?
I would say that she is Liz Truss. Other people can make their judgments, but I think she's a fantastic lady, and I think she should be the next Prime Minister.
We'll see very soon, won't we? It's great to talk to you. Thanks so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.
Voting in the second ballot in the Conservative Party leadership contest takes place between 11:30 this morning and 1:30 this afternoon. The result will be announced at 3 p.m. We'll bring it to you live here on Sky News. And we have a special programme as well. Coming up next week, Sky News will host a live television debate with those who want to be the next leader of the Conservative Party and the country's next Prime Minister. The event will take place on Monday, as I said, 18th of July. Taking questions from a virtual studio audience as well. You can be part of the audience for the debate, get involved and put your questions to the candidates. Email newsdebates@sky.uk. Looking at the morning's papers for you now, here we go. Full steam ahead for Team Mordaunt as the Telegraph splashes with growing momentum behind the candidate most popular with the Tory membership. The Eye describes her performance as a surge which will rattle her rivals. In the Times, no better word than surge to describe Ms Mordaunt's growing popularity with Tory members. Meanwhile, the Mail calls on the right to unify behind Liz Truss to prevent a Sunak premiership. And the Mirror reminds the candidates of the ongoing cost of living crisis as they continue to pledge tax cuts for the rich. Still to come on the programme for you, speaking to the Minister for Care and Mental Health, Gillian Keegan, who is backing Rishi Sunak in the contest for Tory leader. Coronavirus cases on the rise again. We'll speak to the WHO's Special Envoy for COVID-19, Dr David Nabarro, about autumn boosters for the over 50s. And just after 8, joined by the Shadow Commons leader, Thangam Debonair. New research has revealed the communities that will be hardest hit by Britain's worsening heat waves. According to analysis from Manchester University and campaigners Friends of the Earth, Birmingham has the most hard-hit communities. Let's get more information now, should we? Matthew's standing by for us, Matthew Thompson. He's in Hackney, one of the London communities said to be most at risk. New to the show, very welcome, Matthew. Bring us up to date.
Pleasure to be here with you, Kay. Well, look, by all accounts, the first heat wave is over, but there's a second one just around the corner which could hit record temperatures next week. Now, that might sound like good news, but there's an uglier side to more extreme temperatures. And that's why a new report out today by Friends of the Earth in conjunction with the University of Manchester is warning that millions more people right here in the UK could be put at risk from more extreme summer temperatures if our climate change goals aren't met. We're here in Hackney, which is one of the areas identified by the report as being most at risk. Now, that's because it has a high-density urban environment. It's got fewer green spaces. It's got a higher number of elderly residents. It's got lots of high-rise buildings which are harder to cool. Now, in fact, Hackney is identified as the borough with the 4th largest number of at-risk neighbourhoods in the entirety of the UK, behind only Birmingham, Newham and Tower Hamlets. And the point of this report is to warn that even if we stick to our stated global climate change goals of limiting temperature rises to 1.5 degrees above the pre-industrial average, then 6 million more people right here in the UK will still be exposed to what's called in the report very hot weather. That's defined as 5 or more days in a row of temperatures at 27.5 degrees or more. In places like this, temperatures like that, Kay, could kill. And clearly, the higher we go above 1.5 degrees, the more people will be exposed to more dangerous temperatures. So what do we do about it? Well, obviously, more action on global climate change, but then also things like creating more urban green spaces, adapting houses. That could be as simple as installing shutters or the admittedly more expensive option of installing air conditioning. But the harsh reality is that even if we do all that, Kay, more people right here in the UK will be put at risk for more extreme summer temperatures.
Okay, thanks very much for the update. Thanks a lot. Firefighters in Portugal battling wildfires during an extreme heat wave that authorities have linked to climate change. Multiple fires have caused the evacuation of more than 600 people, around 120 needing medical assistance, with 2 people, a civilian and a firefighter, suffering serious injury. Water dumping planes have been helping the firefighters combat the worst of the fires in the nation's central area. Sri Lanka's Prime Minister has told the military to do whatever's necessary to restore order after protesters stormed his office. He declared a state of emergency yesterday. Meantime, the president, who fled to the Maldives on Tuesday, is yet to officially submit his resignation. Should we get more on that? Nicole covering events for us throughout, still in Colombo for us this morning. Hi, Nicole, looks a lot calmer there today.
Yes, and it could be about to get even calmer. We've just heard from the student protests leaders, and they have said that they plan to hand back 3 out of 4 of the government buildings that they have been occupying. Now, another one is still under negotiation. So this is a huge development here. They went into the presidential palace on Saturday with those incredible pictures of tens of thousands of people streaming in, playing on the grounds, inside the gym, swimming in the pool. Well, it seems that today they're going to leave that building, and that means one of the main tourist attractions for people here in Colombo will be handed back. On Wednesday, we saw the Prime Minister's office also taken over on this show. Again, thousands of protesters on the streets. They managed to breach the wall to get into that building. Now, the leaders of the protest movement say that they don't want any damage done to the buildings, and they have been trying to act effectively as guardians, to safeguard them. So that's one reason that they're pulling out. They also feel that political progress is being made and that they are winning against the Rajapaksas. It seems that the Speaker is trying to form an all-party government, even though the President, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, still hasn't officially resigned. He's out of the country, but he hasn't resigned. I'm still waiting for a letter to be delivered to the Speaker, even though he has appointed the Prime Minister as an acting president. So still a very confusing political situation, limbo really here in Sri Lanka. But in the next few hours, we could start to see those government buildings handed over.
OK, for now, Nicole, thank you. Also making news for you this morning. From today, the first of the government's cost of living payouts for those on the lowest incomes will begin reaching around 8 million households. The first payment, worth £326, will be sent to those eligible by the end of this month, with a second instalment due in the autumn. The actor, Kevin Spacey, is due to appear in court in central London later on today to formally enter pleas to the accusations of sex offences. He faces 5 charges involving 4 of sexual assault dating back between 2005 and 2013. Mr. Spacey has said he is strenuously denying the allegations. Families of some of the children killed in the Texas school shooting in May have been lobbying America's politicians to toughen up gun laws. They were in Washington as video from inside the Uvalde school was released showing the gunman and the slow police response. 19 children, 2 teachers died.
We had police officers tasked with protecting our children that day, and they failed because they were afraid to go in because this man had an assault weapon. If the police officers who are armed and trained do not want to face this person that had an assault weapon, who does?
An unnamed Premier League footballer will not be suspended by his club despite being arrested on suspicion of rape. The player was held in North London earlier this month, accused of attacking a woman in her 20s in June, but he denies the allegations. His club feel he can continue his professional commitments while on bail. Amber Heard has failed to get a new trial after accusations of improper juror service in her original defamation case with Johnny Depp were rejected. The Hollywood actor won his case against his ex-wife after she wrote an article about being a domestic abuse victim. President Joe Biden opened his first visit to the Middle East since taking office by telling Israeli leaders of his determination to stop Iran's growing nuclear program. The US and Israel are expected to announce a joint declaration today, renewing calls to take military action to halt Iran's nuclear program. Well, yesterday we brought you a starry, starry night, courtesy of NASA James Webb Telescope, and this morning, another starry, starry night. Well, not quite, but this is Vincent van Gogh's Head of a Peasant Woman, painted in 1885. It's revealed a previously unknown treasure. What's believed to be a first for a UK institution, an X-ray taken of the painting uncovered a self-portrait of the artist glued to the back. There you go. Van Gogh was known for reusing canvas to save money by flipping it round to use the opposite side. Amazing. If you haven't seen the interactive Van Gogh exhibition, you really should. It's amazing. Pretty hot again today, I think.
Warm memories wherever you go. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Well, a little bit cooler today, but very, very hot again in the coming days. The Met Office has issued an amber warning for extra heat covering much of England and eastern Wales Sunday, Monday and Tuesday.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Now, after 3 weeks on the run, dodging airport staff and animal experts, Rowdy, the runaway cat, has finally been found. The feline escaped from a pet carrier at Boston's Logan International Airport. There you go, finally found, and I believe that he is feline fine. I know. Try the veal. Rowdy was on a plane with his owners from Germany heading back to the US after 15 years living away. When their Lufthansa flight landed, the cat ran from her cage to try to catch a bird. That's what they do. After an airport adventure and many treats to lure Rowdy back, calm has finally been restored. Beautiful cat that she is. Fierce but fluffy, this snow leopard has been photographed in India, and it's in the Telegraph this morning. Gorgeous, gorgeous thing. Sadly, it's one of just 10,000 left on the planet. Wow. Get a load of this in the mail. A last cry in battle before death. Perhaps this entire skeleton of a soldier of Waterloo has been uncovered in South Brussels. It is 200 years old. I'm not sure about a death cry. It looks as though he's doing the Macarena. And a lovely aerial shot here of the Tour de France. It's in The Guardian. And it is from the Lancet. No, it's not. It's from the Lancet, which is very different when you've not got the N in it, to Montvernier. There you go. Amazing. And how cute is this? In the Mirror this morning, an alpaca becomes part of the family in Scotland. Not sure that the pooch is particularly happy with it, but the alpaca is very, very happy indeed. All I know about alpacas is if they put their ears back, they're about to spit at you, so you better duck. Top stories for you on the programme this morning. Very welcome to join us on The Breakfast Show. 6 candidates still in the running to become the next Prime Minister as the Tory MPs prepare for a second round of voting in just a few hours' time. New research reveals the communities that will be hardest hit by Britain's worsening heat waves. And Sri Lanka's Prime Minister tells the military to do whatever is necessary to restore order after protesters storm his office. Well, a short while ago, I spoke to Work and Pension Secretary Therese Coffey, who's backing Liz Truss. I asked her what she'd say to supporters of Suella Braverman and Kemi Badenoch, who were widely seen to be vying for the same votes as Liz Truss to unite behind her campaign.
Kay, I'm very conscious that this leadership contest is very intensive and there's a lot of personal emotions that people go through. They put their allegiance to one candidate or another. And when their candidate doesn't do as well as perhaps they would like, it can take a little bit of time for that to absorb. The reason why I think supporters of Suella and Kemi should come and join Liz is because a lot of their policies are in the very similar direction, about having a free economy, about making sure that we stand up for the United Kingdom, be proud of our country, and indeed having that more focus on aspects of delivery, but a different approach slightly on how we tackle economic issues.
More now from someone who's supporting Rishi Sunak, friend of the programme, Minister for Care and Mental Health, Gillian Keegan. Hi, it's great to see you. Thanks for joining us. We've missed your smiling face. I wonder how much Rishi Sunak's smiling this morning. Didn't do as well as he expected.
A quarter of the parliamentary party when you've got 8 candidates. That's pretty good, I think. My math says that's pretty good.
OK, but Penny Mordaunt's probably cock-a-hoop this morning.
I'm sure Penny is really pleased with their result, yeah.
Why do you think she's done so well?
I don't know, actually. I don't know Penny so well. I don't really know Penny so well. But, you know, I still think it's very clear that Rishi has a very strong following. He's got a lot of support. He's got a lot of support of lots of different people, actually, North, South, Brexiteers, Remainers, lots of different seats. He's even got the support of most of the former chancellors. So there's a lot of support for Rishi.
Where do the next votes come from, though? Because it looks as though the other candidates are more to the right. So once they fall in behind, potentially, I don't know, Liz Truss, or then it's becoming much more complicated for your
It's complicated anyway, because if you even look at the mix of people, you know, people are not forming into the same camps that you could have seen, you know, maybe in last elections. There's definitely people who've got very different views, you know, certainly on Brexit, but also on other issues, who are actually joining together. And I think that's because, I mean, certainly in the case of Rishi, I think what we all recognise is the experience he has and the experience we need. These are serious times, we're in serious times, need serious people. And I think that's probably why he's building quite a wide coalition.
You say that, but there's been some disastrous polling for him from YouGov, poll of party members. And it looks as, well, definitely, as far as they were concerned, with their party member polling, Mordaunt 67%, Sunak 28%.
So our party members are pretty open-minded, and they're going to go through a process where there's 5 hustings all over the country, and they will be put through the mill, through the test. That actually is the process that counts. It's the only process that counts. And, you know, there isn't a single issue like there was last time. They will really put them through, and they'll get to know them better.
There is a single issue, isn't there? It's the cost of living.
Well, the single issue is who can navigate us through the cost of living and grow our economy. Absolutely. Who can tackle inflation, tackle the cost of living, grow our economy, and then cut taxes is the approach that Rishi's taking.
Yeah, but they know all of that. I mean, they're not stupid, your members, are they? And 67% of them think Penny Mordaunt...
Well, it's a poll, Kate. There's many, many polls, as you know.
Yeah.
And actually, a lot of the polls at this point, you know, you can take a little with a pinch of salt. When they get to know the candidates, when they don't know all the candidates very well. I mean, we don't know who the final 2 will be, but some of them, you know, are not as well known. When they go through those hustings 5 times all over the country, the members will then make a decision. They know they're making a serious decision. They know they're making a decision about who will lead the country, and actually one of the most influential countries in the world during very challenging times, both at home and abroad, with global inflation and with the war in Ukraine. They know the size and the magnitude of this decision.
Rishi Sunak says he'll run the economy like Margaret Thatcher. That's not even close, though, is it?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean that in March, Rishi Sunak said he would raise the UK's tax burden to its highest level in 70 years. Maggie Thatcher was never.
You make your decisions based on the times that you're in. I think that's why all the former chancellors have said we back Rishi's plan, and we think Margaret Thatcher would as well, because obviously she didn't have to deal with a pandemic. Obviously, we didn't have exactly the same situation in terms of a war in Ukraine. Obviously, there was the Falklands War, but that was a long further away. So your times are your times. You get the hand that you're dealt with.
You can't say that you're going to run the economy like Margaret Thatcher, then, can you? I mean,
sensibly is what you mean. Sensibly. So what you're saying, don't you?
Corporation tax from 52% to 34%. Income tax from, I've got the figures in front of me, 33% to 25%. Rishi Sunak plans to raise corporation tax from 19 to 25%, and no immediate impact on tax.
What were the numbers that you mentioned for Margaret Thatcher? From 52 to
34.
Yeah, and today it's 19.
Yeah.
It's a totally different situation. It's not just whether it goes one.
To put them up there, doesn't it?
Yes. That's the current plan.
So that's going the opposite direction.
Yeah, but it's not about where the arrow points. It's actually the.
I think it is.
It's actually the rate and how it compares to other countries as well, and that's quite an important point, because what you're doing with your corporation tax is trying to attract inward business investment, which we are still a very popular destination for foreign direct investment and for business investment. And he's been very innovative about some of the business investment focuses he's got with the super deductor, with free ports, etc. It's a very, you do what your time requires.
Okay.
And I think he is very determined to cut taxes. We're all determined to cut taxes. We're Conservatives. But you've got to do it after you've tackled inflation.
Yeah, you say when inflation is brought under control. What does that actually mean?
Inflation is going down and not up.
As soon as it starts to fall?
Well, that will be a decision for him. But yes, when you get to the point where you think you've got inflation under control, if you do it the other way round, you risk. It's the plank
of your manifesto. You have to know. So
you risk if you do it the other way round.
When you say inflation brought under control, is it as soon as it starts to fall? Is it when you feel that it's plateaued? When is it?
I think there'll be a number of views in terms of the economists' views, but it's when we feel confident that these inflationary rises are caused by shortage of supply post the pandemic and the whole supply chains being disrupted, plus the war in Ukraine. If the war in Ukraine ended in 3 months' time, it would change the picture. If it doesn't and it goes on, and we've also got the questions of what happens with grain, etc. So there's a lot of very complex things. So we will cut taxes as soon as we possibly can, based on.
What you said is when inflation is under control.
As soon as we possibly can, once inflation's under control. There's no point in raise if you raise.
So we don't know when that's going to.
If you raise taxes, which then fuel inflation, which then also raise interest rates, you may have more money in your pocket, but you've got to spend a lot more. There's no point. It doesn't. That's when you get into the sort of spiral.
Says she plans to borrow in order to pay for tax cuts, and she says that will spare extra growth.
Well, our borrowing costs right now are about £83 billion a year. That is, more than we spend, way more than we spend on defence, even during these times. So if you want to increase that by more, then I think that's dead money. So I don't personally, I want to see that come down as much as possible. But we can't ignore the fact we've been through a pandemic.
Okay.
The furlough scheme and all the other schemes cost a lot of money, but they did protect people's jobs and they did protect the businesses in our country.
Why didn't you resign?
Well, because I'm the social care and mental health minister, and it's so important, everything that I'm doing. The massive reforms. We know that we have to build our mental health services to get the capacity. We know we have to reform social care to take that pressure off the NHS and also make sure we've got a much better social care system.
So you didn't resign because your job's important?
Yes, and I knew what I had to do, Kate.
Yeah,
I knew all the things I had to do. The first meeting on Thursday was with the new ICS chairs.
So
I knew what I had to do.
if you didn't resign because your job's important, did Rishi Sunak not think that his job was important?
No, everyone has their own equation, and he'd obviously been closer and had these conversations with the Prime Minister.
When you resign, then, given the state of the economy.
No, not at all. Some people resigned, and actually, my colleagues, you have to make. It's a really hard decision. If you resign, that's one thing, and I know many colleagues are really sad that they're not able to do the jobs, but they just felt they had to do this to create, to get rid of the last Prime Minister or the current Prime Minister. But in my case, the balance that I took was, you know, you've got to get a balance. You've got to have some people running the country as well. So
yeah, but how much more? I mean, the most important job in the country after the Prime Minister is the Chancellor of the Exchequer, especially during a crisis that could see us heading towards recession.
Yeah.
And because he wants the top job, he decided, selfishly, some might say, to resign when we were right in the middle of it. And I'm guessing that grassroots members who will be voting who the next Prime Minister is will see him as a Judas.
I don't think so. I think it depends on your view of the former Prime Minister or the current Prime Minister. You know, some people will feel that, but some people will feel, you know, we had the Chris Pincher episode was just the straw that broke the camel's back. You know, we spent all of our time when there were serious things, and I've been on this show many times wanting to talk about mental health or social care, and we've talked about, you know, parties or, you know, other people's behaviour, which is not what we need to be talking about. We have to run the country and we have to do it well.
Who do you think are going to be in the final two?
I don't know, but I think... I hope Rishi is in the final two. I mean, you know, now everyone's going to be working very hard for votes. It can move around quite quickly. I hope he is in the final two. But we do have a fantastic range of candidates. And I must say, I am really proud when I open that paper and see them all. It is amazing, right? That's a really... I'm proud of our party.
Are you speaking to your guy every day at the moment?
Yes.
OK, will he come on and do our debate next week?
I don't know, but I'll ask him for you, Kate.
Yeah, should he?
I don't know anything about your debate. I don't know when it's happening or...
It's next week. It's on Monday. I know there's a vote on Monday, but, you know, it gives them the opportunity to speak directly, not just to other candidates, but to also, and other MPs, but also to the grassroots.
I am sure...
And we've got 100 people in the audience.
Oh, right, OK. I am sure everybody will want to... I mean, you know, the country quite rightly will want to ask questions as well. It's not just about us and then the Conservative members. So there will be, I'm sure, a lot of engagement. He's very open. I think he has a great style, actually. He's very... even my taxi driver was saying that this morning.
So is that a yes?
I can't answer for him. I'm not his media person. But I will tell him that you would love him to come on.
Fantastic.
I'll put a word in for you,
I'm sure our viewers will as well. You're very kind. Thank you, Gillian Keegan. Thanks very much indeed. Tamara in Downing Street for us this morning. Hi, Tamara. Good morning. Good morning. Thoughts?
Morning, Kay. Well, the race continues to be unpredictable, and although the assumption among most people in Westminster and indeed all the other campaigns is that Rishi Sunak, who topped the poll yesterday, will make it into the final two, he's had a serious run for his money from Penny Mordaunt. Little known among the public, not in cabinet for quite a long time, but she seems to really have momentum. She was second placed among MPs yesterday, ahead of the Foreign Secretary Liz Truss, and this polling from YouGov among Conservative Party members really electrified the atmosphere in Parliament yesterday, showing that Penny Mordaunt is ahead, not just in general, but in a head-to-head contest with every other person in the race at the moment. She would win with the members. Now, you heard Gillian Keegan there saying, well, this contest has barely got going. There'll be a very long process of the final two going on hustings around the country, and people will get to know them better and they'll get a sense of who they both are, which they don't have at the moment. And they'll also see, she says, that Rishi Sunak has been in the Treasury, he's had a big job, he has the experience, and that will triumph at the end. She said members understand the magnitude of this decision, but certainly the idea that many people want a fresh start, someone who's not been in a senior position under Boris Johnson, is starting to really worry some of the more established candidates. Liz Truss launches today. She needs to make up ground. There are other candidates on the right who may fold, like Suella Braverman and Kemi Badenoch, and those votes may go to her, but they are showing no signs of wanting to leave the contest yet. And unless she unites that vote on the right of the party, she may find it difficult to get to the next stage.
Hello again, welcome back to The Breakfast Show here on Sky News. Tamara standing by in Downing Street for us this morning. We've been hearing from the campaign teams again this morning already, Tamara.
That's right, 6 still in the race, and there will be 5 or maybe even fewer by the end of the day, because MPs are voting again from 11:30 to 1:30, and the lowest placed candidate, we will find out the results of that about 3 o'clock, the lowest placed candidate goes out. There's no thresholds this time, and anyone else who decides to concede may go out as well, but we're looking at 5 candidates maximum by the end of today, and more rounds of voting into next week. And it's really unpredictable. Rishi Sunak, as expected, expected, got the most support from MPs yesterday, but not by an enormous margin. He got 88 votes, and Penny Mordaunt has stormed into second place with a feeling that she really, despite being relatively unknown outside Westminster, has got the momentum with her. And if Liz Truss is to try and get into that final two, she will need other right-wing candidates to fall away and that support to go to her. And what we saw yesterday, Kay, is you can never guarantee whose support you're going to pick up. There are no friends in politics. Jeremy Hunt dropped out of the race yesterday. I think Tom Tugendhat's supporters would rather hoping that he would give them an endorsement. My colleague Mari hears that they're very angry about that. Penny Mordaunt, who supported Hunt for the leadership in 2019 and lost her cabinet job as a result, might have been hoping for his endorsement too, but he endorsed Rishi Sunak in the end. So you can't really guarantee where people are going to go, and it's very difficult to engineer anything. But certainly we're looking at some of the lesser known candidates like Kemi Badenoch, Suella Braverman, staying in this race for now with little sign that they are going to want to drop out at this stage.
As far as Larry's concerned, he's not in the slightest bit interested. They do say, if you want a friend in politics, get a dog. Not even the cat's interested at the moment. As far as we were hearing from Therese Coffey, weren't we? Now, she is supporting Liz Truss?
That's right. Therese Coffey is a long-time ally of Liz Truss, and her message was Liz has the whole package. Liz Truss is launching her campaign today. We haven't heard from her yet. She has been in cabinet pretty much continuously since 2014. She's very experienced, and her message will be that this is, to quote somebody not in the Tory party, no time for a novice, that some of these other candidates do not have the right experience. They've never worked in the Treasury as she did in the past, and so they don't have the experience to walk straight in, she will say, on day one and get things done. She'll also talk a bit about her background. She grew up in Leeds, went to a comprehensive school. She'll say she wants to make this an aspiration nation, and I think try to draw a dividing line with Rishi Sunak, who obviously went to a public school and is very wealthy. So Therese Coffey will be hoping that today, if some of the other candidates on the right drop out of the race, she can start to develop some momentum. This is what Therese Coffey told us.
Kay, I'm very conscious that this leadership contest is very intensive, and there's a lot of personal emotions that people go through. They put their allegiance to one candidate or another, and when their candidate doesn't do as well as perhaps they would like, it can take a little bit of time for that to absorb. The reason why I think supporters of Suella and Kemi should come and join Liz is because a lot of their policies are in the very similar direction, about having a free economy, about making sure that we stand up for the United Kingdom, be proud of our country, and indeed having that more focus on aspects of delivery, but a different approach slightly on how we tackle economic issues.
Back to you shortly, Tamara, if I may. Let me bring in Dr. David Nabarro, though we've had some technical difficulties with us now. We want to talk to you, of course, Doctor, about what on earth is going on with COVID. Infections on the rise again. Looks as though his screen has frozen again. I'm not sure whether Dr. Nabarro can hear me. Doesn't appear that he can, which is such a shame because he's such an expert when it comes to the global COVID-19 response. He's the chair of the Global Health at Imperial College. 300,000 infections a week is what we're looking at as far as COVID is concerned here in the UK. Which country is struggling the worst at the moment? Well, there's a 23% increase, 1.7 million people estimated to have the virus at the moment. Scotland has the biggest increase, 42% increase, 250,700 people infected, 68,500 tested positive in Wales and 59,900 in Northern Ireland. Dr. Nabarro, I don't know, we're having technical issues with you today. Why are we seeing such an increase in COVID?
To be back with you, and I'm sorry about the internet, but this virus just is capable of constantly evolving and changing, and the reason why we've got an increase is it's changed yet again, and it's become too clever for us, and it can break past our immune defenses, and that's why the numbers are going up. In addition, of course, we're all mingling around, and we've got out of the habit of our precautions, our face masks and the other things that matter so much. So my advice to everybody is, please, this virus hasn't gone away. It's not killing so many people, but it's really unpleasant, especially if you get long COVID. So I would ask everybody, just remember the precautions that we worked on so hard 2 years ago. They still matter, and we still got to put them in place. Even though we don't like it, we have to go on respecting this virus.
And what about inoculating, boosting the over 50s? How does that help if it's changing all the time, this virus?
Well, the one joy is that these vaccines that were developed with such amazing skill early on do seem to prevent us from dying when we get COVID. Kay, I had COVID about 6 weeks ago, and I'm in that age group which really oughtn't to get the virus because we can suffer very bad consequences. But because I've been vaccinated, although it was a horrible experience, I did not get seriously ill. I did not die. And that's what I want to ask everybody to do, especially if they're older, especially if they've got diabetes. Make sure you're vaccinated and make sure that if you're offered a booster, you get it. I've had 2 basic vaccinations and 2 boosters, and I would encourage everybody who can to get their vaccination status as up to date as possible. It'll stop you from dying in most cases, which is the important thing.
We must leave it there, I'm afraid. Really wanted to talk to you for longer, out of time. We'll see you very soon. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Kay.